Hello, this is Harlan. Welcome to my Snowmen class. This is a beginner's needle felting class for a fun and easy project. In this class, you'll learn how to make a snowman and how you can easily make snowmen of different sizes. I will not be teaching you how to knit small hats and scarves, but I will discuss how they were made. If you aren't a knitter, there are many alternatives. I will show you a simple hat and scarf using fiber, but if you can sew, you will have many options for dressing your snowman. If this is your first time taking a class on CraftArtEdu, I highly recommend that you take Donna Cato's Making the Most of Your CraftArtEdu class. The materials you will need for this class are felting needles. Number 38 star needles are really good for making these snowmen, but it's always wise to have other needles on hand. You'll need a work surface. Now, I always work on a clover brush mat that's covered with a piece of flannel, but a thick foam pad will do. You'll need merino fiber, small quantities in orange and black, and other colors if you're going to use merino fiber to make your scarf and a turban hat. You'll need core fiber, which is wool batting. You'll need scissors with sharp points, black seed beads for the eyes, needle and thread, that's a beading needle, 22 gauge wire, wire cutters, small buttons or beads as desired. Always remember that felting needles are very sharp. Handle them with care. In this class, you'll primarily be working with core fiber. Core fiber is usually a blend of wools, which have been drum carded into bats. The core fiber I use is wool batting made for filling comforters and quilts. It's lovely stuff. Core fiber sometimes contains small bits of vegetable matter. Rarely are these pieces large enough to be of any concern, and you can always pick the vegetable matter out of the fiber if you don't like the way it looks or feels. I actually like a little bit of the vegetable matter showing in the snowmen, as it reminds me of the bits of leaves that ended up in the snowmen I made as a girl. Being a blend of wool fibers, it is easy to needle felt. Core fiber is often used to make the underlying structures in needle felted sculpture because it's cheaper than finer wool and it felts more quickly than finer wools. It can be a great savings to make a shape from core fiber and then cover it with the more expensive fibers. I love this stuff. Merino is my absolute favorite fiber, but core fiber is always being used in my studio. One of the first puzzles when beginning needle felting is how to measure fiber. Core fiber comes in a bat, and you can see a section of such a bat in the photo on the left. It's easy to tear apart, and to start making a snowman, I tore off a piece that was maybe 20 inches long. One of the things that is great about a project such as this is that you don't need to be really precise in measuring the quantity of fiber you start with. Tear off some core fiber and begin rolling it up. I'll show you how I do that in the video that follows. Let's start making a snowman. Here's my work surface, and I cover it with flannel. Now I'm going to take some core fiber and I'm going to begin rolling it up. Now watch how I roll it. I roll and then I do a quarter turn and roll and a quarter turn and roll. This helps to make the fiber tighter, more dense, so you'll have less needle felting to do. The rolled up fiber will be larger than the ball will be after needle felting, but if the size you rolled up is about right for a head of a snowman, you'll want to use more fiber when you make the body. If the first ball is more the size you had in mind for the body, you'd use less fiber to make the head. Just remember, it's always easy to add more fiber if needed. Rolling up the fiber isn't enough to actually make a good ball. You need to needle it. Now I am using a multiple needle tool here, but this works just as well with one needle. You want to use a coarser needle such as a 38 star or a 36, as they're more powerful when you're beginning felting an item. Now what I'm doing is I am rotating and needling. I am trying to make this a nice ball shape. Anytime I see a bump, I needle it. So you keep rotating and needling, and always be careful. The needles are sharp. Just rotate and needle until you get the ball better and better formed. This will also increase the firmness a little. For a snowman, it doesn't need to be really firm, as it might be with later sculpture projects that you might want to do. For beginning needle felting, snowmen are ideal because they can be relatively soft and still be fine. When you've made a nice ball, you can set your needles aside any second now, and roll the fiber in your hands. Having made one ball, it's time to make another. So we take some more core fiber and roll it up. Now I liked the first ball for the body, so this one's going to be for the head. And I don't need as much fiber, so I've torn off some excess. And I've rolled it up similarly to the way I rolled up the first one. And then I begin needling and needling, rotating and needling to make a nice ball shape. You want to work from all sides of your ball. You don't want to needle just from one side because then it'll become lopsided. You want to maintain that round shape, and that's best done by turning and rotating your piece as you needle it, smoothing out the surface, increasing the firmness. And you can compare, and this is still, the new piece is a bit large for the head, so I'm going to reduce it by needling some more. This will increase its firmness, which is fine because later we'll also want to add a nose and a mouth. So if it's a little firmer than the body is, that will actually be an asset. But right now what we're really looking for is a nice round ball that is in proportion to the previous ball. Rotate and needle. Compare the pieces again. Time to make the feet for our snowman or snow boots. Now I've taken a piece that is probably about 7 inches long and then folded the outside edges in towards the middle. This video has been sped up because it's frankly pretty boring watching me needle felt in real time. As with the balls, you're going to be needling, rotating, needling. You're going to reduce the overall size. You're going to increase the firmness. You want rounded tops and a flat bottom. and you'll reduce the overall width, and you're looking for a nice firm appearance. Rotate and needle. This is what you do most of all in needle felting. Sometimes you turn the piece over and work it from the bottom. You want to reduce any obvious bumps. You want to smooth edges so that you have a nice profile on your snow boots. Now these are actually 2 boots. It's easier just to make them in one piece than it is to make 2 separate ones. I'm going to fold it in the middle, and I'm going to use my needles here to secure that fold. And you want to needle from many different directions in order to secure that fold so that you get a slight V. That will help stabilize your snowman when he's standing up. Let's try it out. Yes, that looks good. Now we're going to put the pieces together. To do this, you want to use a large needle such as a number 36 or a number 38 star. The way you join pieces together is to share fiber from one part to another, say from the boots into the main body, from the body into the boots. Do this by needling in many different directions. Now remember to be careful. These needles are very sharp. You don't want to poke yourself as you're holding your pieces together and needling through the pieces to join them. Needle until the pieces are securely felted together. Also remember that the way your needle goes in is the way your needle comes out. If you try and change your angle, that's when you break needles. You don't want to be doing that. If you break a needle, stop and take the broken point out. Never leave a broken needle in a piece. So you can see I'm just needling the 2 pieces together, seeing that it stands up. Now I am orienting the head. I want to get the best part of the ball, that's the head, facing forward and placed properly on the body. And then I start needling through the head into the body and from the body into the head. Be careful not to poke yourself. You don't want to get blood on a white snowman. Continue needling until the head is securely in place. It's good to needle all the way around the head. Check that to see that he stands up. You can adjust these snowmen and their feet pretty easily just by bending them a bit to get the balance just right. And you'll do that again once you add other things like noses and scarves and things. These snowmen are strictly decorative. They haven't been built strongly enough to be suitable as toys, and with the wire arms, they would not be suitable toys for young children. Felt the pieces together, check for the balance, and when you have all the head, the body, and the boots all nicely felted together, it's time to decorate. Pictured on the left are 4 pieces of 20 gauge wire cut to about 5-inch lengths. You might want to cut your wire to a longer length the first time you make one of these arms. You can always cut off the excess length. If you're making larger snowmen, you will need longer lengths of wire to make the arms. I actually prefer 22 gauge wire for snowman arms. It's thinner and easier to bend and twist, but 20 gauge wire works too. 2 pieces are used to make one arm. You begin by bending the wires around the middle of a pencil. Twist the wires together. If you spread out the ends of your wire, as seen in the photo on the left, you should have an easier time getting a nice, neat, twisted wire. But an unevenly twisted wire, as seen in the photo on the right, has an element of character and perhaps resembles a twig better than a perfectly twisted wire. The ends of the wire can be spread out and trimmed to look like a thumb and 3 fingers. Always blunt cut the wire ends so they are not sharp. Let's do something scary. Let's do some surgery on our snowman. With sharp pointed needles, cut an opening in the side of the snowman body where you would like to place his arm. The cut needs to be deep enough to completely insert the rounded end of the twisted wires into the body. Insert the wire arm into the body and position it as you want. You might want the arm up a little or straight out to the side or maybe down a little. Once the arm is positioned, you want to aim your needle towards where you're certain that loop end is inside the body. Oh, I missed the first few times I tried to, so don't be discouraged. You can tell by inserting your needle, and with the needle in place, gently try and pull out the arm. If you can't, that means your needle is inside that loop, right where you want it to be. Now you want to needle in place, which means you only slightly pull back on the needle. The point should stay inside the fiber, and then you insert it again. You can do that a few times. The needle is moving fiber through that loop and tangling it with fiber on the other side, which will help keep the arm in place. Repeat the steps of bending and twisting the wire, cutting a slit in the body and inserting the arm on the other side of the snowman. Secure it in place by needling in place through the loop hidden in the body. To more securely hold the arm in place and to heal the cut made by the scissors, add a small quantity of fiber around the base of the arms. Use your needles to felt the new fiber to the body. Being able to cut a piece open and insert new parts or remove a broken needle point and then being able to heal that cut is one of the wonderful aspects of working with fiber. To make a carrot nose, you need a very small quantity of fiber. Roll the fiber into a tight, small log shape. Use your needles to felt the nose. Needles push and drag fiber around so you can move it where you want to and away from where you don't want the fiber. For a carrot nose, you want a cone shape. Position the nose on the face of the snowman and attach it by needling all the way around the nose. Remember to needle in place, that is, inserting your needle and to pull back on it slightly and then thrust into the snowman head again. Just that small bit of fiber made a very nice looking nose. It's time to add some eyes. I'm using some black seed beads. You could use seed beads or you could use embroidery floss and make French knots for the eyes. To sew seed beads on for eyes, I recommend that you insert the beading needle from the back as shown. This allows you to hide the knot in the beading thread. Inserting and removing your needle in the seam between the head and the body helps to keep the stitches hidden while making sure the eyes are securely sewn on. Sew on buttons or tiny jingle bells by also hiding the stitches where they will not be seen. One of the easiest ways to make a scarf for your snowman is to use a small quantity of fiber that is long enough to tie nicely around the neck. The ends could be trimmed for a neater appearance. Fiber also can be wrapped around the head and needled just enough to hold in place to create a turban. Wait, I forgot the mouth. Well, actually, I didn't forget. I just think some snowmen look cute without a mouth. Adding a mouth requires just a tiny bit of black fiber, which you needle into place. Alternatives would be to use embroidery floss or to sew on seed beads to look like charcoal chunks used to create a smile. I like happy smiles. Notice on the face on the right that I use just a wee bit more fiber at the corners. It's a small detail but can add a lot. Excess fiber can just be trimmed away with your scissors. There is no doubt that snowmen look great in knitted hats and scarf, but since I don't know the exact size of the snowman you will make, I cannot provide a pattern. If you're not a knitter, you may want to skip this page. What I did was to find some really nice fine yarn and got out my mom's smallest knitting needles, and I knit a small sample to get an idea of the gauge. Once I knew the gauge, I could then figure out how many stitches I needed to fit nicely around a snowman's head. I then knit a few rows of ribbing, knit, purl, and then I'd switch to knitting one row and purling the next. Depending on how long a hat I wanted, I would start decreasing stitches by knitting 2 stitches together, fairly evenly spaced across a row, reducing the total number of stitches in that row by maybe 4 stitches. If you want a really tall hat, you knit and purl a row or 2 before doing another row in which you are decreasing stitches. For shorter hats, the rows in which you decrease the stitches are closer together or even right next to each other. These snowmen aren't really large, so it doesn't take much to make a hat. The scarves are just 3 or 4 stitches knitted to a length long enough to tie around the snowman's neck. Best to knit the scarf loosely so that it is soft and ties nicely. I had a lot of fun knitting small hats and scarves, and I used some yarn I had on hand which has been patiently waiting to be used for more years than I care to mention. You certainly don't need to learn to knit. If you can sew, there are a lot of options, and if you can't sew, you might go looking for teddy bear clothes and make your snowman the right size for whatever you find. You could just cut some pretty calico into a square, which could be folded diagonally in half and tied around the head. Calico cut into a long, narrow strip would also do for a scarf. Making snowmen is a fast and fun project. A group of snowmen look great together. Now, these are not suitable as toys, but they make wonderful decorations. I hope you will enjoy making cheerful little snowmen for your home. Have a question? To email me a question directly, hover your cursor over this arrow on the navigation bar to pop open these menu options and click on Questions and Answers. I'll answer your question as soon as possible. Please join my group on the CraftArtEdu community. Thank you for watching my Snowman Beginning Needle Felting class. For CraftArtEdu, this is Harlan. Be sure to check out my other CraftEdu classes in needle felt and in oil painting.